everyone, welcome to Pour Painting with Ron. In today's video I thought I would use one of my favourite colour combinations to do a ring come wiggle pour, whatever it is. You'll see what it is in a bit, but hopefully it will turn out nice. Now I usually use these colours to do a multi flip cup pour, so I thought I'd just change it up today and do something different and see what happens. So these colours are rather bright. So I'm using mostly Montmartre colours today. I'm using their magenta, their purple, turquoise and gold. And then I'm also using my favourite metallics, the Deco Art Extreme Sheen paints. And I've got three colours to complement the Montmartre colours I'm using today. So I've got the, what's this one? Aquamarine to go with the turquoise. And I've got pink tourmaline to go with the magenta. And I have their amethyst to go with the purple. Now I won't put the same colour with the same other colour. I'll change it up a bit just to spread them out on the canvas. Now my pouring medium today is Floetrol. Now Floetrol is quite reactive in a paint mix, and so is the Extreme Sheen. Now when I do the flip cup pours, I do use silicone because I want a very busy bright look, but I don't really want a gazillion cells in my ring pour, wiggle pour today. So I think I'll leave out any silicone today. I think the Floetrol and the Extreme Sheen will create plenty of effects on their own. Now I'm actually getting ready for some markets and a pop-up store at the moment, so I'm crazy busy doing paintings. So even though I'm filming one today, I'll mix up enough paint to do two. Takes just as long, and I'll have a spare one for my store and one for my markets. Works out better that way. Anyway, the canvas I'm using today is sort of a large square one, 45 centimetres by 45 centimetre thick edge canvas. And just as I usually do, I've used giant push pins to lift it up from the surface of the table and some painter's tape to keep the back looking rather nice. I've also made sure the canvas was nice and tight. Now usually for a canvas this size for a pour you could use just about 900 grams of paint. But for this pour I really want to see if I can stretch things out a little bit more, and I don't want to lose most of my paint over the side. So I'm going with about 500 grams today. I hope that will be enough, and I hope to stretch it out over the canvas so we can really see the rings and things that are happening. So fingers crossed it's enough. There's nothing worse than not having enough and not being able to stretch it out to cover your canvas. But yeah, we'll see what happens. So about 500 grams or so, and I should be able to fit it into this one large cup. If it's a bigger canvas, I'd use a jug or something a bit bigger so I can get away with just using one container full of paint. Okay, right, so for the paints, I've mixed up equal amounts of each of these four colours, about 160 grams, but divided in half, be 80 grams of each colour. I've mixed them 1-to-1 with the Floetrol, and these Extreme Sheen, I've mixed these 1-to-1 with Floetrol as well, and I'm using about, what does it work out to be, about 20 grams of, about 30 grams of each colour per painting. Now these mix up quite thin, so it'll be interesting to see what happens in the ring pour. Hopefully pretty to look at. That's the idea anyway. Right, so let's get started. Righto, so these are all my colours for today. Quite a lot today. I did forget to mention that I mixed up a lot of white as well, so I'm going to use white just to lighten things up a little bit in the painting. Now the gold I've kept a little bit thicker than the other colours because metallics tend to disappear if they're too thin. So as you can see, I've left it relatively thick today as compared to the other colours. You can see on the magenta, I've got the consistency a bit like thick honey. So if I do a drizzle, the little lines of paint on the top stay there for about 3 seconds or so. So I've kept the consistency of these colours the same as each other. And then, as I said before, the consistency of the metallics is reasonably thin. So, but they do end up creating quite a few cells and things. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. So I'll just put these aside. I have to have a bit of a think about the order of the colours I'm going to do, because whatever colour I put in the bottom of the cup is what's going to come out last and be the centre of my painting. So I do want to have a bit of white coming out last. So I'll put in some white first. Not a huge amount, otherwise I have a big, huge patch of white. And then I want it reasonably bright inside. So I thought I'd do some magenta and some gold, and I'll put a little bit next to each other. So I'll drizzle some magenta down this side, and I'll do some gold down the other. Okay, I've used a bit more than half of some colours. That's okay. Hopefully now we have enough. I'll just put these paints aside. I have no idea how it's going to work out. We shall soon see. Now you can experiment with layering your colours in the cup just to see what pops out. Now, rather than a standard ring pour, just pouring into the middle, I thought I'd try something different today and just do some rings going out and in, and then finish with a wiggle pour in the centre, just to see what happens. All right, so are we ready? Okay, so I'll go out, and then I'll go in, and then I'll do my jiggle pour. Now I'm going for bright and colourful. Now the centre is what people will see first. So I'm just doing the centre carefully. And then, oh, catch the drip. Well, that looks interesting. Now I'll give it a little bit of a torch. You can see the metallics already reacting. They form cells all on their own. Now, I don't want to lose too much over the sides yet. So I'll just twirl my paint in rings, gradually moving towards the outside of my canvas. Hoping I have enough paint. We'll soon find out. Let's go to that side. I'll bring my paint back to the middle. And then I'll go to this side. Bring my paint to the middle. And then I'll go to the other side. Bring it back to the middle. And I'll go down to this side. Bring it back to the middle, and then I'll go and do the corners. Tend to lose a lot of paint doing the corners. I'll bring it back to the middle. And then we'll go up to this corner. It's over. Bring it back to the middle. Sorry if you can't see it. Go down to the other corner. I might just have enough paint. Okay, I'll bring it back to the middle. Still flowing. I really did want to stretch it out. Now we'll see if we can get down to the other corner. Don't want to lose too much of my colour. Oh, we're almost there. Okay, we've reached the corner. We'll bring it back. See if I can open it up a little bit. It's very pretty. Look what's happening with that purple. Not too keen on the top there, so. Okay, we're almost there, I think. Well, that's certainly interesting. What do you think? Not too crazy keen about this white bit, but yeah, that's as much as I can stretch it now. But I think I'm very happy with that overall. I'll just give it a bit of a torch. Pops the air bubbles, and the extreme sheen will do its thing a little bit more once it heats up. Okay. Cool. Now, I'll just go around the corners, make sure I've covered everything. If you haven't, you can pick up a little bit of paint off your drop sheet and just dab it on any bits that you might have missed. Yes, I've missed the corner over here. So I'll pick up some of that paint I dropped. Now, if I was doing cells in a painting, I'd have a lot more paint on my canvas because you don't want to overstretch your cells because then they lose their shape and they look disgusting. Just move the canvas a bit so I can pick up some paint to do the corner. As you can see, I still lost paint, as you always do, but not a huge amount. Okay, that'll dribble down and look okay when it dries. Oop, stuck my fingers in, not a good look. Okay, we'll just move that back. And then I'll tidy up the underside just by scraping my palette knife along those edges. The drips tend to pull the paint off the canvas. So you remove the drips with the palette knife. And it also looks tidy when it dries. So you don't have horrible dried bits hanging off the bottom of your canvas. Oh, I missed a little bit. So you may need to go around a couple of times before it's all done. Okay, I'll finish this, wash my hands, and then I'll bring you in for a closer look. Because the patterns in this are really lovely. Hopefully you can see it. I'm holding the camera above my head. But we'll come in close. Now the bit that I'm not really super keen on is this bit down here. It just looks a little bit dirty. But yeah, there's nothing I can do about that now. I think the rest of the painting is really lovely. We've got lots of interesting patterns happening. This corner's nice. And the metallics will really come into their own once the painting dries. I like this section of the painting. See, this is the center. And we go up to the top again. So I just did my second one for today using exactly the same technique that you saw in the first one, but this time I used a lot less white in the mix, and I did end up having a bit more of the extreme sheen colours that I put into the cup because I didn't use quite half in my first painting. So I think it turned out much better than the first one actually. So I'll bring you in for a closer look of this second one. I hope you can see it. This is my second painting. As you can see, it turned out really beautiful. Well, I think so anyway. I used a lot less white in this one. As you can see, it's darker. But I had quite a bit of the extreme sheen left over. I didn't use quite half in the last painting. So it's really dominated this one, and it will create just the loveliest sheen when it dries. I kept quite a lot of the gold this time, especially down in this corner. We've got the gold and the magenta and the purple. Created some beautiful patterns. And then here's the center of the painting where I finished pouring out the cup. So the swirls and textures are just lovely. Well, that was fun, wasn't it? I certainly enjoyed doing these two paintings today. I used what I learnt doing the first one and applied it to the second one. I think the second one turned out better, even though I liked both of them. I was going for bright and colourful with interesting designs, and that's certainly what I got today. I think using less white was really good, and I did, as I said before, I had a bit more of the extreme sheen in the second one than in the first one, and that added to the overall effect of the second one. So I find this technique really fun to do. I think going out with the rings and then in again and then finishing off with the wiggle pour worked really well, and I'll certainly do that again. So I hope I've inspired you today with what I've done and given you some ideas to have a go at yourself when you're doing your paint pouring or pour painting or whatever it's called. I always say paint pouring, and anyway, you get the idea. Well, I hope you had a good time today, and as usual, if you liked what you saw, please press the like button. That really helps my videos get found on YouTube, and if you'd like to see more of my videos, please take a moment to subscribe. So until next time, happy painting!